Bante, could you please tell us how you would meet criticism regarding rebirth from modern materialists such as Richard Dawkins? Okay, here's one that we can all sink our teeth into. Richard Dawkins. I'll go on the record as saying I'm not really fond of Richard Dawkins. I like some of the things he says, but if you look at, I don't know, this is an ad hominem, isn't it? But there is something from a Buddhist perspective to how, it's not answering the question at all, really, but it's hopefully kind of setting the stage. Is that it's sad, really, to see how materialism destroys someone's spiritual qualities, makes them seem very, very coarse and unpleasant, in a sense. I mean, to me anyway, as refined as he sounds, it's clear that he's not a very refined individual from my point of view. But I'd like to open it up to other people.
Well, it seems that Richard Dawkins had a very tough Anglican childhood. You know, honestly.
The really difficult thing is to convince or to show materialists that they're holding a faith, that they believe in material physical world is a belief that is not founded in actual experience.
Or physics. Modern
physics is all based on assumptions and theories that are not.
No, but I mean, modern physics shows that. Modern physics seems to suggest, barring a multiverse or so on, or many worlds that are not perceived, seems to suggest that it is the case, that entities don't exist and it's all based on, to some extent, based on experience. Yeah,
well, hell,
belief in death.
If you really want to look at it, material form doesn't even actually exist. Color doesn't even actually exist. It's what we perceive as color, but really in the outer world, it's just vibrations being reflected off of surfaces. There is no color. We interpret the world. We create this world from our interpretations of things and give it solidity, and color and form and meaning, where really to another being with different senses, it's a completely different world. And that's the problem with
not exactly, views. Because you can do the same experiment a million times and get the same physics experiment a million times and get the same results. So obviously there is not proof, but a clear indication that a physics would say that there is the physical realm.
Oh, no. I'm saying that there is the physical realm. What I'm implying is that our interpretation as to what is the reality of this physical realm.
The perception, yeah. There's a lot of psychological research.
Okay, it's me who's saying that there's no physical realm.
Okay, but you're actually giving fodder to their argument, because then they would say, well, yes, that's why we can't trust experience, why we can't trust meditation, because our perceptions are skewed. We have to use, this is why they will say this is why they fight against meditation as quote-unquote a special kind of knowing, or any special kind of knowing. You can only know something from a materialist point of view through rigorous impersonal experimentation, where you've taken the subject completely out of the picture. So, this idea of subjectivity is actually a bad thing, and subjective experience is just that, subjective in a bad way.
Well, but that's quite old thing, so quite old problem. I mean, not problem. It's in every psychology book, psychology book, you can find the subjective perception, how the eye works, and how we actually experience reality, like through our senses. How is it? There's a lot of question marks. We don't know how it works. So science, still don't know how it works.
Yeah, but materialists have pretty good evidence to support their view. Like at death, there's nothing. There's nothing left of brain activity, for example. Just if we can get back to what is the question here? The question is how would you deal with people, or how do you refute? No, how would you meet criticism regarding rebirth?
Yeah, anyone read Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion?
Yeah, but that's not about rebirth. Let's stay on track.
Yeah, but just asking. Anyone?
I listened to an audiobook, but that's
That's
not.
a good one.
I'll tell you personally, I'm still I don't hold any belief on rebirth and reincarnation at all. I'm still open on that. I I I can't say I have a belief or a faith in rebirth.
I think it's a good
In the
thing.
next life.
Yeah, I mean, we just wait long enough, we'll all know the answer. It's not really that important, is it? But there's something great to do, because you kind of have a choice. You know, if your outlook on life is that, well, you can even avoid the subject entirely and just say, well, just in the present moment. But there are problems with that as well. So if you have the view, if your worldview is based on permanent death, no, at the moment of death, then you know the problems with that are what you see from the materialists, what you see from secularists in general. They tend to get caught up in addiction and following after their desires and living a very materialistic lifestyle, right? And we can see the result that it's having on the world. We can see the result it has on people's minds and on their lives. But the response, of course, is that, well, it's okay. When you die, you're scot-free. All these negative habits of addiction and aversion that you've built up, partialities and so on, well, you give them up when you die. It's not quite that simple, because actually you have to deal with them even in this life as well. It's if you ever stop and look at yourself and what you're doing to yourself, it's quite unpleasant. If you take, on the other hand, the view of continuation and the impotence of death, in that sense, to deprive you of your the fruit of your habits, then you've got to be a lot more careful about how you act, and you really do have to take the mind and experience seriously. You have to take the effects of your actions seriously. That tends to, one would think, lead to more peace and harmony in the world, on the one hand, and it also, well, it leads to a different way of behavior, I think, quite radically. So it's not trivial.
I'd like to interrupt you and ask you a question, please. And it has exactly to do with what you're asking, but it's a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ontological dilemma of what would take rebirth if we don't have a permanent atta, or permanent self. What of the five skandhas, or all of the five skandhas, would take rebirth?
Yeah.
That we would call an I or a self.
I'll answer that if you like, but I'm trying to point.
That's why I was bringing that up right now, because
if I can
that's
focus.
a perfect thing for you to really elucidate, because that causes a lot of confusion.
Right. Okay, but it's not what I was trying to discuss is the difference between the two views and the different effect that it has on your mind, regardless of whether one is right or how you explain one or the other. So you have these two views. Then you also have the view that neither one is important and you should just focus on the present moment. I think that's there's potential there, and it certainly seems to be very much what the Buddha taught many times, to just focus on the present moment. But if there is no thought of the future or the repercussions of your actions, in other words, the potential for this moment to create another moment, and another moment, and to have no escape from the next moment. If you don't have that, and if you're just really sticking and saying, well, carpe diem, seize the day, live for the now, so on, it without some sort of philosophical understanding or doctrine of continuity, or maybe not even philosophical, but the idea of cause and effect. Let's put it this way: without the idea of cause and effect, even a theory of just staying in the here and now does, in practical terms, lead people to selfishness and to hedonism. Hedonism is, I think, very much living in the now, no? So that, I think that is really the key, and it's also the key to rebirth, cause and effect. Science works in terms of cause and effect. The laws of science show very clearly the idea of cause and effect. Quantum physics shows cause and effect. Classical mechanics, classical physics shows cause and effect, but so does quantum physics. It just changes the realm in which we talk about cause and effect. Buddhist meditation shows cause and effect. It's quite clear from all aspects that cause and effect is reality. That's what we mean by karma. When people say karma is faith-based, this is a total misunderstanding of the concept of karma. When people say that rebirth is faith-based, from a Buddhist perspective, that's a total misunderstanding of our approach towards rebirth. Rebirth is just an extrapolation of cause and effect. We don't believe, we don't accept the belief that physical death changes anything in the causal continuum of consciousness from one moment to the next, which we clearly perceive to be occurring. And it goes back to just the framework within which we're working, which is a mental framework. We don't subscribe to the idea that subjective reality is a negative thing, or subjective experience is a negative thing. We differentiate between the objective aspects of personal experience and the subjective ones in a way that science doesn't, or materialist science doesn't. Materialist science says all experience is subjective and leaves it at that, and that's certainly not the case. It's possible to get into a state of mind, aka or what we know of as mindfulness, and have the results and the observations of that experience be reproducible in all cases for all people. So you could have 1,000 people performing the same experiments, and provided they're truthful and so on, provided they are sane, provided they are ordinary human beings, they will be able to achieve the same results. This is what Sam Harris talks about in terms of everyone being able to see that compassion, that it's possible to enter into these states that he seems to think are truly objectively positive or so on. I mean, he seems to get a little bit caught up in them, but the point, he makes a good point that it's objectively, there's an objective mindset. It does truly occur, and you could do materialist diagnostics or studies of it to see whether it was having the same effect on the human being, on the physical side. So we simply take that to be that objective reality on a mental level, more on a mental level, to be the basis of reality. And so you would have to introduce the belief of nihilism, of annihilation at death. Whether this actually, phases a materialist is debatable. I talked to the Atheist Association of Austin. What are they called? You know these guys that are on YouTube? The Atheists of...
Yeah, I know. I heard about them, yeah.
I watched
they have a radio kind of thing.
And so I sent them an email, and they actually responded to me. This Matt guy, he was horrible. He was worse than Richard. Like, just the coarsest...
No. I mean, I think these people are very smart.
Is that with a guy named Aaron Ra?
I remember an Aaron, but Matt Dillahunty, or whatever his name is, he's the host. And he's great when he's attacking theists, but he just lumped meditation in with all of that. You know, he said I could make. He said to me at one point, you could make the next Exposed movie. You know, this ridiculous movie about teaching evolution in school. He said, well, yeah, you want to teach mindfulness? Well, that's you could write the next. No, what was it? Exposed? Was that the movie? I don't remember. I didn't watch it, but I know about this Ben Stiller guy. So Sam Harris is an atheist who makes the distinction there, and who makes this distinction. Not all.
Did you mean Ben? Did you mean Ben Stein?
Right, Ben Stein, not Ben Stiller. Ben Stein.
Okay.
But Sam Harris, as I'm saying, you know, there is the objective aspect of personal experience that, you know, truly, whatever theory you have about it, it truly holds, and you know, practices based on it do have an effect. You know, this happiest man in the world article. This guy really did get happy.
But at the end of the day, the rebirth and karma and all these things are beyond what's gonna happen. It's not that important in Buddhism, is it?
No, karma is incredibly important. Karma is the
I mean, no. I mean, you can say instead of karma, you can see things as they are. You can see suffering. I mean.
But yes, but you see, what is the problem with suffering? There's the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering is what? That's karma. The result.
If you do bad deeds, you feel horrible, right? You don't feel you feel bad about it.
Yes.
That's all you need.
But that's karma.
All you need. Oh, okay. But don't call it karma. You just call it observation.
Oh dear.
Just call it observation.
This is the problem. This is the problem. It's not you. This is how people think when they approach Buddhism. Well, that's all that's important. This karma thing, throw that out. But that's exactly what, you know. What do you think karma is? It's practical. It's not a theory where you think, wow, yeah, if I kill someone in this life, I'll be killed in my next life. All that is an extrapolation. If it's true or not true, I mean, it makes sense. If you do bad things, it hurts you now, but it also has the potential to ripple out and hurt you in the future. It can hurt you in this life. Maybe the person will come back and kill you in this life. That makes sense.
Yeah, if you replace things like karma with observation, if we replace meditating with mind training.
No, that's not, because observation. Karma is the way it is. Observation is seeing how it is. Two different things.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you don't have to know the concept of karma just to see that. This is, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you see it, but you can see it like straight away. Sometimes.
Exactly.
Not all. Yeah, sometimes not. Sometimes
it's not necessary. It's not necessary to see what's going to happen in your next life based on what you did in this life, but it's just part of the theory. You know, you can't say exactly, but it makes sense that, you know, it's the bad effects of doing bad things.
Exactly. It makes sense, and I don't think that if we regard Buddhism as might not be religion, that atheists shouldn't be attacking Buddhism, because there's not even one thing that could be attacked, because it's based on reason.
Rebirth and karma is something they do attack. Many people do attack for this reason. They take it from, well, ass backwards, as I think is the technical term. They start, you know, from next life and work their way back, which is not how we just explain it. It starts from this moment and ripples out. So what's going to happen in the next life? Well, it's conjecture, but it makes sense that it's based on, in some part, on what we do in this life.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Basically,
I'm not going to give you proof, but it makes sense.